So this time of year, there's always one question that I always seem to be asked. Do you hunt? And my answer has always been the same for the last 20 years. No, not anymore. But I used to. The weekend before Thanksgiving has always been opening weekend of the gun deer season in Wisconsin. It's always kind of been an exciting time for deer hunters to get ready to go out and try to bag their deer. And it's been 20 years since I've hunted. I think the last time that I hunted, I was a sophomore in college. And I can remember all the guys on my wing in the dorms getting ready to go out and talking about their hunts in the past and things, you know, the deer that they harvested. And all of us really excited about doing it. And I was no different. I was excited. I was telling stories about some of the deer that I had shot. And at that point, I hadn't shot very many. It was an exciting time, and it's always been a tradition in Wisconsin. But little did I know that that was going to be my last year hunting. I remember as a kid watching my dad get ready to go hunt. He didn't go bow hunting. He didn't do any of that stuff. My dad, he always hunted, though, during the gun deer season. And he always hunted opening weekend. And back then, we had an old pickup truck camper. And he would get that ready. And my mom would spend, you know, a better part of the week getting food ready for him and my uncle. At the time, I had an uncle who had two sons from Milwaukee, and being that they were down in Milwaukee, there was not a lot of places to go hunting. So they would always drive up here and drive up to central Wisconsin and go hunting with my dad, and they'd sleep in the camper. And if I remember right, it was just opening weekend because my dad didn't have a lot of vacation time back then, so he couldn't take the whole week off, and my uncles and cousins couldn't either. So they would come up Friday night of opening weekend, and then we'd hang out a little bit. I'd hang out with my cousins. They would leave Friday night, and they wouldn't come back until Sunday evening. Sometimes they had deer, sometimes they didn't. But I always remember they always went on public land. They always tried to find some public land where they could set up their camp, and they'd have a great time. I just remember being jealous because, man, Mom made the best food for them. They got to take soda and candy bars and things that we just didn't have on a regular basis at that time. So it was like I always looked forward to the day that I would be able to go hunting with them. When the day finally came that I could finally go hunting with them, the area that they had been hunting probably for the last 5 years got clear cut. Somebody had come in and pretty much just taken care of the whole woods that were there. Basically, they lost their little spot that they hunted in. And they were disappointed because they knew that was just going to push the hunters into a smaller area to hunt. And I wouldn't get that opportunity to go camping with the guys. So my dad had the idea of asking my grandpa to go hunt in his land. I'm not sure how many acres, but he's got quite a few. He's got a nice little woods behind his farm. At this point, my grandpa had retired from farming, and he didn't have cows that were roaming the woods anymore, so it was pretty safe for us to be out there hunting. And I remember, because it was going to be out at my grandpa's, that another uncle of mine and his son would be able to come hunting with us. So my first year hunting, I got to hunt with my grandfather, my dad, an uncle and a cousin from Milwaukee, and another uncle and a cousin, which was really cool. I mean, it was a good-sized party. It was my first time hunting, so I ended up hunting with my dad, close to my dad. And I remember we asked one of my grandfather's neighbors if we could hunt in his woods, and that's where my dad and I hunted, which was adjacent to my grandfather's woods. So there was plenty of space for all of us, and we were the only ones in there. So we weren't fighting with anybody else, or, you know, we didn't have anybody that we didn't want in there with us. I don't remember if I got anything. I think I might have gotten a doe that year, or probably just tagged a doe and didn't get my first deer till a few years later. But we did that for a couple of years. That group came up and hunted a couple of years, and it was a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed it. Well, time went on. My uncle from Milwaukee and his son stopped coming up. It just, their schedules got busy. His son got older. His son, got a job and stuff. It was hard for him to get off. So they just stopped coming up. And eventually my other cousin, who, same thing, got older, got a job, and wanted to hunt for some bigger deer. So he was looking for areas that typically had bigger deer. And so he wasn't always coming every year. So for a while there, it was just the four of us, my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle. And every once in a while, somebody new would come out and hunt with us. But again, it was good because we always knew and who those people were, and we knew where they were. And that was always important, to us to know that. But eventually, my grandpa got to the point where he didn't want to go out there as much anymore. And for a short period of time, it was just three of us that were going out there and hunting. And it was okay. I still enjoyed it, but it was getting to the point where it wasn't as fun as those earlier years. Having my grandpa out there and having my uncle and cousin from Milwaukee out there, we sat around and you'd tell stories most of the time. And we'd go hunting for a few hours and then come back in for lunch, and you'd spend an hour or 2 hours doing that. And then you'd go back out hunting for a few more hours before you come in for the evening, and then you would enjoy the evening together. Eventually, when it was just the three of us, it lost a lot of that. We still enjoyed hunting. We were still hunting in Grandpa's woods, but we didn't have that camaraderie, I guess, out in the woods like we did when I first started. So, like I said, we hunted like that for a few years, my dad and I and my uncle. Eventually, I got to be, a sophomore in college, got to be a junior in college, and was trying to figure out my career path a little bit, and come up to hunting season, and I just wasn't into it. I just didn't want to do it. I think I had a job at that time. I couldn't get off anyway to go hunting. My dad wasn't really heartbroken about it anyway. He was getting to the point where the cold was taking its toll on him a little bit more every year. It was getting harder for him to stay warm and be active out in the woods. So he was okay with it. Let's just skip a year. And so we decided to skip a year. So here I am today, 20 years later, and I still every once in a while, when that weekend approaches of gun deer season, that I get that little urge that, man, I'd really like to go out there and just try this again and see what can happen. But that feeling fades pretty quickly, and I'm back to being okay with not going out and hunting. It took me a while to realize why. And it wasn't the fact that I didn't like hunting. It was the fact that I kind of missed hanging out with my family. That was a lot of it. It was just a lot of, it was the getting together and hanging out and enjoying the woods together and enjoying being around each other and joking and telling stories. And that's what I miss about hunting. And that's not to say that I won't ever get that back. Like my cousin, he still hunts, and he's got an older daughter in college now, and she hunts, and every once in a while they still go out to Grandpa's woods and hunt out there. So there's some opportunities there to do that. I've got friends that have offered some tree stands that I could sit in if I wanted to hunt again, but I don't know, for me it's just not the same. The hunting wasn't the big deal for me. It was the getting together. That's what I really enjoyed. I got excited to see my uncles and see my cousins and hunt with Grandpa and hunt with my dad. That's what I really enjoyed about deer hunting in the gun deer season. If you got a deer, great. That was fine. But I always said that was what was important about the whole deal. Now, I've got daughters. They are getting older, and once in a while they'll ask questions about hunting. They're a little young yet. They're not quite ready for that, but I've always told them that if they ever wanted to go out hunting, I would definitely teach them how to do it and get them out there and show them what I know about it, and hopefully go with somebody who knows a little bit more than me so that they can get a real taste of it and how it works. And I think that would be fun. I think I would really enjoy that, especially if they got into it quite a bit. There's actually times where I would almost rather sit out in the woods with my camera than with a gun right now. And I've thought about doing that, asking some friends and stuff maybe next year to go out and kind of almost document their hunt. I think that would be a lot of fun for me to sit in a blind and just take pictures of everything going around and just taking in nature again. I think one of the other things I really miss about hunting is that quiet factor where you're just sitting there, you're taking it all in, and listening to the sounds around you, listening to the chipmunks sound larger than life, listening to the squirrels bounce around and chatter and laugh at you, and missing the whole outdoor experience in the most quiet and most still way you can. You know, when I hunted, I didn't hunt in a tree stand. I hunted on the ground. So you found a place and you just sat and you were quiet, and you were as quiet for as long as you could be. And that's something that I wish I would have appreciated a little bit more when I started hunting. That whole quiet, that just taking in all of what was around me. And I think now I would appreciate that more, and that kind of pulls me a little bit to almost want to go back out again and do it again. It's something that I think about. It's not something that bothers me. I encourage anybody who wants to go out and hunt to hunt. I think it's a great thing. It's a great way to manage the herd. I know it's a shorter podcast this week, and I felt it was important for you to know why I'm not a hunter. Because I think when people think of exploring outdoors and being an outdoorsman, I think the first thing you think of is being a hunter. And part of what I'm doing here is to try to say it's okay that you're not a hunter, but yet you can still be an outdoorsman. You can still be an outdoor explorer. You can still get out there and enjoy nature without having to hunt. We are in a hunting heavy area here in Wisconsin, and I think that's great. I love the fact that guys get out there and hunt, and I love seeing pictures of guys' bucks and listening to their stories of how they got them. To me, that's just great. That's what this season is all about, and that's honestly what I miss most about hunting, is the getting out and sharing stories and just meeting up with friends and family. And that was what was really important when I look back at it. That's what hunting is and should be all about. It should be about getting together with your family, hanging out with your friends, and just kind of reconnecting with each other. And you know what? If you get a deer along the way, consider that the bonus. Thanks again for listening to the Wisconsin Outdoor Explorers podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. Send me a message or a comment about the podcast if you're liking it. If you've got ideas for me and what you'd like to hear me talk about, or just drop me a line to say, hey, we love it, keep it up. I'm only 8 episodes in here, but again, I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying talking to you every week, and I hope you're enjoying it too. So for all you hunters out there, I hope you had some luck this gun deer season, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to the Wisconsin's Outdoor Explorer podcast. For more great information about being an outdoor explorer, visit our website at wisconsinsoutdoorexplorer.com. Be sure to check out the blog page and follow us on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.